Thank you, Mr. Contest Master. They call me Ishmael. They call me Ishmael is the opening line from one of the classic great American novels, Moby Dick, written by Herman Melville in 1851. Now, I know a lot of you in this room, and I know most of you barely cracked the cover of that book and never finished reading it. In fact, you read it by reading Cliff Notes or reading Wikipedia. So let me fill you in on the details. Ishmael is the narrator of the story. He is a young seaman who signs on to a whaling vessel commanded by Captain Ahab. The problem is he doesn't know that Captain Ahab doesn't want to just capture any whale. He is tormented. He is possessed and obsessed to capture and kill the great white whale, Moby Dick. He's become crazed with his possession. He lost his right leg in a battle with Moby Dick. He can't think of anything but sailing the ocean waters to get Moby Dick, even putting his seamen and sailors in life's peril. At one point in the story, Starbuck, the first mate, says, "It is not the whale that chases you. It is you that chases madly the whale." At the end of the book, Ahab grabs the harpoon and flings it into the side of Moby Dick, only to have the rope of the harpoon wrapped around his legs and be yanked off the boat into the ocean, where he becomes lashed against the side of Moby Dick, the victim of his own hands and mind, where he is then crashed into the boat and killed by Moby Dick. A great story. My fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests and judges, I have a confession to make. This speech, this international speech contest has become my personal great white whale. I've become obsessed with winning this speech, and I've never done it. The first year, 4 years ago, I wrote an incredible, gut-wrenching, soul-bearing story about my son and our family. A tearjerker. I poured my heart and soul into it. Surely I would win. Only to lose to a young man who told a story about his grandmother and her garden. And she was in the room. And she brought her prized tomatoes into the room and handed them out at the end of the speech. Curses! The grandmother story! You can't beat the grandmother story! So I took a lesson from him. I aged up. Year 2. I told a story about my dad. A warm, heartwarming, uplifting story called The Man with 9 Lives, all about his multiple medical problems, while at the same time teaching the illiterate in North Georgia how to read. It was a surefire winner. Until I came up upon a man who told a story about a cat. A cat who would stand at the door and look out, and when he opened the door, would never leave the house. In fact, in the middle of the speech, he showed us how the cat would vomit up furball. A cat story with cat vomit. Why didn't I think of that? So the third year, I went to a classic American story, high school football, Friday Night Lights. The classic story of the younger, undersized, not as talented small team competing against the faster, bigger, superior team. A great winner. It was sure to score a touchdown for me, full of highs, full of lows. But my obsession got the better of me, and I got wrapped up in the story, and like the game that went into overtime, so did I, and I went 7 seconds long. I lost again. So actually, my obsession turned into stalking. I stalked the neighborhood looking for stories with the kids in the neighborhood until I found one next door, the 4-year-old right next door. Certainly, the little kid's story would win. And I came up against a story of a teenage girl who created a national program of goodness and hope. No matter how funny the kid is, the 4-year-old kid, it doesn't beat the teenage do-gooder girl story. I've become blinded by this story. I feel like Ahab. Moby Dick finally chased and killed Ahab, and this international speech contest is chasing me down. It's weighing me down. It's getting in the way. Maybe I should give up hope of ever winning this contest. But then I thought of Ishmael. You see, Ishmael was the only survivor of the ship. He was the only one that lived to tell the story about Moby Dick and Ahab. You see, Ishmael actually didn't care about whaling. Ishmael wanted to go on a journey He wanted to go on great adventures. He loved hanging out with his shipmates, telling them stories. In fact, he was the only man on the boat who could read, and so he helped his shipmates learn how to read and get educated. He wasn't consumed with obsession. He hadn't become bitter. Are you obsessed with anything? In this room, perhaps, people hunting for the perfect job while underperforming in your current job. Maybe you're chasing the almighty dollar, always looking for a way to pad that bank account. Maybe it's the physical look. You're always trying to buy the latest product to look younger and fitter and better and thinner. College athletics. Those administrators are constantly pushing the envelope, willing to break rules and ethics to win the big game. We seem perpetually surrounded by people who are seemingly willing to do anything to achieve their goal, to hit their number. But thanks to Ishmael, now I see things differently. In fact, to tell you the truth, I no longer care about winning this contest. I now realize what the win is for me. The win is writing the story. The win is coming up with the creative ideas. The win is coming up with the words and editing the words and practicing the delivery. That's where the joy is. The win is thinking that someone in this room tonight has been touched, has been impacted, will walk away with a smile, maybe a little tear in your eye. Have something that will help you better your life when you leave the room today. Without Toastmasters, I wouldn't have been able to tell that amazing story about my dad. Without Toastmasters, I wouldn't have realized the value of faith in making decisions. So, my fellow Toastmasters, guests, and judges, you are all now shipmates with me on the USS Toastmaster. Leave behind your obsessions and your bitterness. You, raise the mainsail. You, yes you, grab that jib. You over there, push the bow off. For we have a journey to go on. We have a speech to write. Mr. Conte.